Do you want to lose belly fat and get rid of that weight gain around the middle? Do you want to have a flatter, a smaller belly? Well, today I'm going to be talking about belly fat and how hormones, stress, and sleep affect the weight we carry around our stomach. So maybe you're going to hear something different today than just do some cardio, do crunches, do all these things, because there's a lot more that goes into that weight around our stomach than just exercise or just training our core. And before we dive into the episode today, I want to give you guys a really practical resource if you are looking to train your core. So I have a 5-day core challenge. It is free and it's about 5 minutes a day. And it's really going to teach you how to train your core effectively. So our core is not just our stomach. It's not just our six-pack. It's also our back. It's our lower abdominal muscles, called that transverse abdominis, which zips that six-pack together. So it's really important that you know how to train your core. Commonly, if I pull up some random workout on YouTube, or even when I go to do some different yoga or Pilates things, they're really not training the core correctly. So it's really important to know how to do this and to take this with you as you go to exercise. So there's going to be a link down below where you can sign up for this free challenge. Hi friends, and welcome to the Healthy Beyond 40 show. I'm Michele, mama 4 and military wife, and I'm passionate about helping women get healthy from the inside out so they can feel better and live their best life. Do you feel like you're struggling to lose weight and get in shape? If you're ready to develop healthier habits, exercise consistently, and lose weight sustainably, then you're in the right place. I combine my expertise from my doctorate in physical therapy to my experience as a health coach, personal trainer, and yoga teacher to bring you actionable steps for a healthy lifestyle. No magic pill here, so lace up those shoes and get moving. All right, so let's dive into this topic today. So it's pretty common as you start to get 40 and older, even 35, you may be gaining more weight in your belly or your abdominal region. And a lot of times it goes past just diet and exercise. So those are important. If we are eating more than we need, we're going to gain weight. If we're not exercising, if we don't have a strong core, if we don't have a strong body overall, if we don't have that muscle mass, that's going to affect the weight we're gaining too. But also our hormones, our stress, and our sleep are huge. So I'm going to narrow in on these 3 topics today as they relate to belly fat. And also before we go into this, it's almost like in our culture we think that having body fat is bad, but God actually made us to have body fat. Having body fat on us is actually good. We obviously don't want too much, and which is a problem, but we need to just change our mindset a little bit that having fat, or even having some fat around our stomach or rolls around our stomach, that is normal and that is okay. We just want to make sure that we're avoiding excess body fat because we know that's linked to a lot of chronic health conditions. But we don't want to be pinching every little inch and feeling bad about our body fat. I was recently talking to a teenager and she wanted to have, a flat stomach where she could see her six-pack muscles, and she showed me a picture of someone else. And one thing I did tell her was, for women are built to have more body fat. That's just the way God has created our bodies. Men have less body fat, and that is what is normal for their body. So for a lot of women, if we're even having our six-packs defined, for most of us, we may actually be in an unhealthy body fat range. And that can lead to things like messing up our cycle and different things like that. So body fat is important. Women are going to have more body fat than men. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about how hormones are related to belly fat. So especially when we are shifting, perimenopause can be anywhere from like the 3 to 10 years before we hit menopause. And menopause is when we've had a year without a menstrual cycle. And sometimes what happens during that perimenopause and menopause is that our body becomes insulin resistant. And insulin is a hormone, and it affects how we store fat, and especially when our insulin is going up, we can have more belly fat. It just tends to accumulate in that area a little bit more. And so insulin has to do with our blood sugar management. So when we eat something that has carbs in it and our blood sugar raises, our pancreas sends out insulin to bring the blood sugar down. What eventually happens, and we become more prone in that perimenopause, menopause, is that insulin resistance, where we have to keep pumping out more and more insulin to bring that blood sugar down. It's like our cells become resistant to the insulin and they need more and more. So that can have an impact and make fat accumulate around our stomachs more. So that's where really watching what we're eating and really controlling our blood sugar and really learning a lot about blood sugar. Most people don't really know what's affecting their blood sugar because we're not wearing monitors. We can get like a continuous glucose monitor and actually see that. But if we're not doing that, we have to be really smart and try to understand how our food is impacting our blood sugar. And the other hormone I just want to bring up is thyroid. So it's pretty common for the thyroid, especially to dip lower. It can go higher too. But especially when it goes lower, we start seeing that underactive thyroid, and that can lead to weight gain. And I will say, I'll put a link down below to this article by Dr. Aviva Ram, and she actually gives lab numbers for thyroids, because a lot of times if you're going to a conventional doctor, they're not testing all the thyroid labs. They're maybe looking at one or a few, but there's different thyroid numbers that you want to look at, and also that range is different. So some functional medicine doctors, what they consider normal is going to be a little bit different. So if you're really struggling with weight gain, I encourage you to check into your thyroid and really look for a more functional health type doctor. Okay, so those are two hormones. We obviously have more, and there's more hormones that can impact belly fat, but especially that insulin resistance. So managing our blood sugar and also making sure our thyroid is working effectively. Next, I want to talk about stress, because how many of us are stressed? It's pretty common for most of us, especially as women, to feel stressed. We have a lot on our plates. A lot of us has not grown up with having good coping tools. So I am working on my EFT certification. I'm actually going to finish it up this week. I'm so excited. It's been a long process. But what I really love about EFT or tapping is that it's a tool that I can use to start to explore my emotions, because I was someone who grew up that what we think of negative emotions, like we can't express, we hold that in, you're fine. So I've been on this big journey to allow myself to feel my emotions, because then I can actually move past them. Because when we don't feel our emotions, we bottle it up and it just creates a lot of pressure. So we have to have tools to deal with chronic stress, and we have to be able to work through things and notice what our perspective is, and notice what our thoughts are, because our thoughts are going to change how our body works. So when it comes to stress, we have this hormone called cortisol. And especially when we are stressed, that cortisol is going to keep going up. And what happens with that is that it promotes fat storage, especially in our stomach area. So we want to make sure that, one, we're setting up our life and schedule as much as we can to decrease stress. Because if we are overloaded, there's just really no amount of tools that are going to help with that. So we have to really evaluate, and this is a huge one, really evaluate how we're living our lives and what is on our schedule. Because it's pretty common for me to talk to someone and like, yeah, that's like way too much on your schedule. I would be stressed too. You do literally have no time for yourself. But you are in control of your life and you can make choices. And then we want to make sure that we're having tools to deal with that stress. Do we have buffer time? Do we have tools like EFT or journaling or prayer or deep breathing or yoga or going out in nature? There's all these different tools that we can have. But a lot of us really need to spend a good amount of time. I know for me, I probably have spent the last 10 years of really digging into this and learning about myself, about my emotions, having different tools, because I never learned this growing up or as a young adult. And the other thing when it comes to stress that I want to talk about is a lot of times stress can lead to stress eating. And again, it goes back to because we have a hard time coping with our uncomfortable feelings. They're not bad. They're not negative feelings. They're just uncomfortable and we don't know what to do with them. But we know that if we go and grab some ice cream or a cookie or potato chips, that we just feel better because it increases our dopamine. It provides us with a little relief, but it doesn't provide us with long-term relief. It's like putting a Band-Aid on something, but we're not fixing the problem. So we really need to pay attention to our stress, notice if it's leading to stress eating, and being able to identify those emotional triggers and work through them. That is where definitely doing some health coaching, like I do with my clients, can really help. Because a lot of times we want to work on all these more like practical things. Like I'm going to do a walk. I'm going to eat this specific thing, but we're avoiding working on that deeper work because it's harder. Working on our emotions, working on why we're using food to comfort us. But I would say that is like the first thing you need to work on. So I'll put a link down below if that's you guys and you want to set up a free call and start that health coaching journey. You can do that. So we really need to look for ways to reduce our stress. And this gets so easy to put off because we're so busy. But I encourage you to really find those tools and use those tools that help you to decrease stress. And also just on a practical level, I've been taking Organifi's green juice for almost 2 years now. And because it has a clinical dose of ashwagandha. So ashwagandha is an adaptogen herb and it really helps our stress response. And I started taking this when we were in the middle of a move across country because I had heard one of my other friends talk about it. I'm like, I need to try that. And it really has been a big benefit. I have it most mornings. So not only am I getting the ashwagandha, but they also have different greens in it that helps your body to detoxify. Organifi also has the gold. So when I was going through this move and this hard time, I got both drinks. And the gold you take in the evening and it's more of a warm drink. It has turmeric, which is going to help with inflammation, but also has lemon balm, which is a calming herb. So it helps to calm the body. So we can also use these food and nutrients and these herbs that have been around for so long to also help our body on a cellular level with stress. So I'll include the link for Organifi down below. Use the code HEALTHY20 and you guys can save 20% off your next order. And anytime you go to order, use that code HEALTHY20 because you can save 20% again and again whenever you order. All right, and next I want to talk about sleep. So it's really important that we're getting a good night's sleep, and that hour might vary for people, but for most people it's going to really be like 7 to 9 hours. So much happens in our body while we're sleeping. It's so important. Our body repairs, our mind consolidates memories. That's why we have dreams. It's trying to make sense of our world around us. And our body just goes into repair mode. And what happens when we're not getting enough sleep or we're getting poor sleep is that typically our hunger and cravings are going to increase. And this becomes an effect from different hormones like insulin. And there's hunger hormones that can be affected here too. And so this can really make it harder to lose belly fat. And again, when we sleep, it goes back to the stress. It's going to increase our cortisol. So one, we really have to make sure that we're just prioritizing sleep. You know, it gets so easy to get stuck scrolling on our phone or watching shows or doing these things that don't really matter. They're not really what we're being intentional about, but we get swept away by them. Versus we need to be really intentional about like, hey, this is my hard cutoff to go to bed. And I also know that I need an hour wind down time to brush my teeth, to read, to meditate, to maybe talk to my spouse, whatever that is. Don't forget that wind down time before you actually want to get into bed. But it has to be a priority. So we really have to look at what we are doing in a day and what we're prioritizing. And so I'm not going to go into all the better sleep habits. You guys can look that up. But especially like if you know you're doing something that's affecting your sleep, focus on that. Most of us usually know something we're doing that's affecting our sleep, whether that's being on our phone, whether that's just not stopping things early enough or maybe having like a screen on in our room. Especially if you know something, start there. Don't overthink it. All right, so today we focused on belly fat, but probably in ways that most people haven't heard about before. Really talking about our hormone balance and really working on managing our blood sugars, making sure that we're getting our thyroid checked out if we're having weight gain. And you guys can look up symptoms of hypothyroidism. So hypo is going to mean low thyroid. We talked about stress and how it's important to manage our stress so that our cortisol levels are managed so that that won't contribute to belly fat. And then sleep, how important sleep is to keep our cortisol levels down, and really all of our like hunger and fullness hormones, those working well too by getting enough sleep. So as I've said all these areas, I want you guys to think, what is one area that you need to work on? Because it's easy to take in information, but again, if we're not doing something practical with this information, it really doesn't mean anything. So maybe you need to write down, text yourself, whatever that is. What is that area you need to work on? And on a very practical level, how can you start doing that? And how can you hold yourself accountable for that each day? Because I don't want you guys to just take information in. I want you guys to try something and put some action there. And know that it's okay if you try something and it doesn't work. People who are problem solvers are going to try something again, maybe alter it a little bit. We can't give up on ourselves. We have to keep trying. All right, so again, I'll have that link to the free core challenge down below. And I'll also have a link for a free call. So if you are looking for support and maybe you're tired of finding random YouTube workouts or just forgetting to work out because it seems like too much of a hassle and you're not sure what to do, I would love to help support you with my personal training app. Or if you're looking more for that health coaching, really to work around those emotional triggers and those things that are stopping you from following through what you want to do. So there'll be a link down below. It was just a free call where we're going to talk about your goals and struggles and see if we're a fit. All right, friends, I hope that you guys have a good week. Keep on moving and don't give up on yourself.